Hello, BookTube. This is a book tag. This is the Freudian Book Tag. It's created by Just One Reader. Link his channel below. And I was tagged by Todd the Librarian, so thank you, Todd. It's a Monday morning here in Vermont. It's minus 4 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit. And yeah, a bit chilly out, so but I've got a little bit of time, and this is a challenging book tag. Well done. So I have spent more time than is usual running around the bookcases trying to figure this one out. So nothing wrong with the challenge. Enjoyed it very much. So let's get going with it, huh? So the first thing here for the tag questions, and I'm doing them on my phone here because they're complex questions. Freud's theories are commonly mischaracterized and underappreciated. Name a character in a book that you feel is misunderstood. In what ways? Well, for me, that would be the novel I, Claudius by Robert Graves. Tiberius Claudius Drusus Nero Germanicus lived from 10 BC to 54 AD. Despised as a weakling and dismissed as an idiot because of his physical infirmities, Claudius survived the intrigues and poisonings that marked the reigns of Augustus, Tiberius, and the mad Caligula to become emperor of Rome in 41 AD. So, yeah, misunderstood, underestimated. So I think that would qualify for the question. And a lot of that was because of his stammering, and people just prejudged him. And he lived in interesting times, as the curse says it. Number 2, when Freud first debuted his psychoanalytic theory, it was not well received. And by some of us, it is still not well received. Many were scandalized by his discovery of children's sexuality. It was only later that his work was recognized and applauded. What is a book whose debut was not well received, or a book whose release was considered by some to be scandalous? What are your thoughts? I'm not sure it would be quite as scandalous today, and that would be D.H. Lawrence, Lady Chatterley's Lover. Pretty frank descriptions of sexuality. The heroine's husband suffers a war wound, both physically and psychologically, and there's another character who does not suffer from those infirmities. So for the day, it was quite shocking. Today, it would be to some folks. Number 3, Freud is said to have been very self-aware and self-analyzing even in childhood. I believe we call that self-centered. What is a book that seems to have been quite aware of itself? What kind of reading experience did this make for you? And this one, it's intentional. And this is Nikos Kazantzakis, Report to Greco. It's a book I've always loved. In his own words, the author of Zorba the Greek and the Odyssey, a modern sequel, tells the story of his life and art. Yeah, so a great writer you don't hear as much about as you used to. Some people know him from the novel Last Temptation of Christ. I love Freedom or Death, which is another one of his novels. He was from the Isle of Crete. Very much a man of his time, but wrestling with the past as we all do. So I highly recommend this. Okay, so on to the 4th. While many aspects of Freud's theories are still used, he was very much a product of his time. For instance, in his early career, he was influenced by Darwinism, and later years by the discoveries made by physicists. Being a neurologist, most of his early discoveries were influenced by medicine and biology. Name a book that was strongly influenced by prominent ideas of the time, but that have remained relevant over time. Why do you think it's maintained its relevance? For me, that's the author Joseph Campbell, and I just picked a random book off the shelf. This is Saki and Satori, The Asian Journals, Japan. I don't know, yeah, they have a picture of him here. He taught at Sarah Lawrence College. He was a mythographer. Used to be a famous bumper sticker back in the day, "Don't Myth Joseph Campbell." Did a famous television series on PBS with Bill Moyers. Grappled with the world of mythology. Famous series of books, The Masks of God, and many more. He was hugely influenced by one of Freud's opponents, Carl Jung, and it's interesting. Some people think he was over-influenced by psychology. Modern scientists, a lot of them would say that. But his explorations, his humanity, his wide-ranging intellect make him well worth reading now. I don't know if they have The Power of Myth with Bill Moyers and Joseph Campbell on Netflix or one of those streaming services, or maybe even on YouTube. But if you have never seen it, he's also a great storyteller. So Joseph Campbell, influenced by Carl Jung. So let's see. Number 5, the unconscious. Freud was the first to suggest that all behavior is part of hidden mental states, or as he called it, the unconscious. Name a book that in your appearance shows the real side of humanity, or a character. I don't believe there is a real side. I think we're complex, multifaceted. We have many real sides, so I guess that means I believe we have a real side. But anytime any of it's overemphasized is probably a problem. So for this, I picked Paul Atreides from Frank Herbert's classic Dune. And for me, living in the times we live in, that was our need for heroes, the messianic character, and how dangerous that is, and the flaws. And then in Paul's own character, how did he react to that? How do you deal with that kind of adulation? We see it in our popular culture, people who succumb to that and the costs, and then when the general population succumbs to having that kind of figure, there's also great cost. So, instincts. One of the basic premises of psychoanalysis is that the human mind and behavior are influenced by unconscious drives. Libido and aggression, sexual love versus destruction and death, sexual /love versus destruction /death. What is a book that deals with these primal forces? Well, for that, I'm going to have to go with Terry Goodkind, The Wizard's First Rule. And I'm doing a reread of this right now and very much enjoying it. So, in the aftermath of the brutal murder, I can't speak, of his father, Richard Cypher encounters a mysterious woman, Kalan Umnel, in his forest sanctuary. She seeks his help, and more. His world, his very beliefs are shattered when ancient debts come due with thundering violence. In their darkest hour, Kalan calls upon Richard to reach beyond his sword, to invoke within himself something more noble. Neither knows that the rules of battle have just changed, or that their time has run out. This is the beginning. One book, one rule, witness the birth of a legend. Richard begins a quest with her, and obviously, and early, has a romantic infatuation. Maybe that's too strong a term. It's a healthy infatuation with her, and you can tell he's fallen in love with her. But her very powers and her very nature makes even her touch dangerous. And for them to get together, dangerous. So that struggles in the background here constantly, and is very well done. So, and I'm really enjoying the reread of this. So, yeah, that would be the one. So, dreams. Number 7, hysteria and repression. At the turn of the century, Freud claimed that people were so sexually repressed that they started to develop physiological symptoms such as blindness, numbness, hysterical attacks, when in fact nothing was physically wrong with him. Name a book that features repressed sexuality. So this book is a reaction to that. This is Robert Silverberg, The World Inside. And see these towers? Everybody lives in these. They're just massive. So, Urbmon, a 1,000-story climb into the sky. Humanity massed 3 kilometers high. The ultimate solution to the population problem. Build up, 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 not out, out, out. The year is 2381. The place is Urban Monad 116 of the constellation Chipets. The population of this 1,000-story structure is 800,000 plus and always growing. The essence of life is to be blessworthy and to multiply, to afford one's neighbor any type of sexual fulfillment, and above all, to avoid the evil of frustration. But every world has its heretics, and there are those who question the quality of life on Urbmons. On every level of the building, there are these hidden malcontents who feel such perverse desires as a longing for privacy, a wish to descend from the heights of Urbmon, a longing to walk on earth and bask in sunshine. Within these individuals lies danger, the seed of discontent with the vertical world of 2381. And in this stratified world of the 24th century, who is to say which are more truly human, the contented masses of Urbmon society or the rebel throwbacks to an earlier Earth? So this is an exact answer to that question by Silverberg, not by me. So here, dreams. In his groundbreaking interpretation of dreams, Freud discovered that dream analysis is one of the best ways to understand the unconscious. And my thing is here to lose my place. The practice is still one of the key skills that modern analysts today have to learn how to master. Name a book where the dreams are heavily prominent. And that would be this series. Oddly enough, I don't have the first volume anymore. I don't know where it is. This is the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, The Unbeliever. This is the Ill Earth War. The first one was Lord Fowle's Bane. And then the third was The Power That Preserves, and the series had later iterations. This is a story of a man who's a writer, ends up with leprosy, nearly gets hit by a police car, and that transports him into a magical land. At the end, it seems like he's waking up from a dream in a hospital, and it's only been a little bit of time passed, even though a huge amount of time has passed in the book. I think this one opens, he's in a dream, he's in the hospital, and then he goes into a dream state. So you're never really quite sure what's going on here with that. This is, in my opinion, after Tolkien, there was a lot of copycat stuff. This one was one of the earliest to take that whole trilogy and Tolkien-esque thing and to really get creative with it, in my opinion. So let's see where we're at. Oh, we're on the couch. Of course, how could we forget the couch? Lying down to talk about anything at all while a stranger sits behind you is a weird dynamic. Yes, it is. However fascinating and effective, we'll see. There is something unique and special about the analyst-patient relationship, something you can only know if you have experienced it. Name a book with interesting, weird, or unique relationships. And for me, it's The Hobbit. And without going into detail either that you know about already or that would spoil it for you if you haven't read The Hobbit, that would be Bilbo and Gollum. And the dynamic continues later on, but the riddle game, I think, brings some of that to light. So, yep, be the Hobbit. Frodo and Gollum. And then Freud has been seriously misunderstood by many since his day. Be that as it may, modern research has supported many of his findings. Today, psychoanalysis is a strong field with more and more people training to become analysts. God help us. Name a book author that makes you hopeful about the future. I'm going to name an author. Long gone. That was Arthur C. Clarke. This is a collection of his shorter pieces. Greetings, Carbon-Based Bipeds. That would be us. He had a way of envisioning the future that really comes through in his writing. And it's positive for the most part, and not always. I mean, think of the short story 9 Billion Names of God. If you ever get a chance, read that. But yeah, he believed in the future, and he was one of the greats, when I was growing up, one of the greats of science fiction. One of the big three, Asimov, Clarke, and Heinlein. I'm not sure we would rank that generation the same way now that time has passed, but he was just wonderful. So by some he's credited with the concept of the satellite. That may be a bit of an overstatement, but he sure did help popularize it. Popularized a lot of the space race stuff. Part of the British Interplanetary Society. So to be in one of those big three, of course, he was British, and Heinlein and Asimov were Americans, and so he did not quite so much fall under the sway of Astounding and John W. Campbell and all that, and maybe that was good. But yeah, I would say that for me, well, they're calling him here the prophet of the space age, and that seems pretty accurate. So that was, and I only got smarmy with a few of my comments on psychoanalysis and Freud. I think Freud reflected his class and Vienna at the time more than he does human nature, but that's just me. It was a wonderful tag, and it was very complex, and it was a bit of a challenge. So well done, Juan. Thank you very much, Todd. I enjoyed it. Now I have to go put all these books back. So thank you, BookTube.